Good morning, rock stars, and welcome back to our last Q&A for the Perfect Fit Quilt Along. If you are brand new around here, my name is Holly Ann, Knight of String and Story, and it is my job to guide you to quilt with confidence. Y'all, I am just making some little adjustments to these cameras. There we go. Oh, that's much better. That's kind of a funky angle for the, hang on. Sorry, Instagram people. I got to adjust you a little bit. It's too tilty. It's too tilty. Y'all know we do this live. It's real life. Here we are. But I'm so excited, y'all, because we are going to load the long arm together because this Perfect Fit quilt is going to QuiltCon next week. So here's mine. Ta-da! Da! And we're going to load the long arm together while we're talking about ways to quilt this quilt. Now, Perfect Fit is a little bit of an optical illusion quilt. It has a lot going on. So if you have been part of this quilt along and you've been following along on the blog, you know that a resource released this week. And it's a blog all about different ways you can quilt Perfect Fit. There are two ways that I've really quilted it. One is to do an all-over design and really let the pattern speak for itself in a lot of ways. As I mentioned, it's a little bit of an optical illusion, so visually there's already a lot happening. Good morning, Sharon. Thank you. Hello, everyone. Good morning. There's already a lot going on, so I think this is a great opportunity for using a pretty simple all-over design if you just want to let that piecing shine. You've worked really hard to continue that pattern all the way down your quilt. Why not let that, okay. John is asking me a question that is not relevant to the current conversation. So might as well just let all your piecing shine, right? Option 2 that I have done is to pick a different motif for each color and switch back and forth as you work your way down the quilt. Obviously, that takes a little bit more planning. Good morning to you too, Susan. I'm going to try to remember that the next time I see you in person. Good morning. Best typo of the day. And that takes a little bit more planning as you move down, but it's just a little bit of visual interest. If you chose to work with solids, that might be a really fun way to show off a few different motifs. Okay. Hello, Dot. Thank you. And good morning as well, Susan. I love it. So today I'm loading my long arm. If you've never seen me load the long arm, then you're going to get to have that experience. I'm going to try very hard not to hold pins in my mouth while we are talking. It's not really a safe thing to do anyway, but especially, not on camera and not while actually chit-chatting. I have chosen a solid for my backing, not because I'm overly attached to the idea of a solid backing, but because I'm very aware of all of our inventory is about to head to QuiltCon. And if I put 4 yards of a bird is the word print on the back of this, then that would be 4 yards that one of y'all can't put on the back of your quilt. I did notice, and I'm surprised that none of y'all have reached out to me about this. We did a very silly thing with our Perfect Fit pattern. And somewhere along the way, the first cutting chart ended up as the chart on the back of the pattern, which was not the intention. And the backing and binding requirements have been deleted. I've made a note to myself to add this to our errata page so that you will have a quick reference. But for those of you that made the throw size with me, it's 4 yards. 4 yards of backing and a ½ yard of binding. So just as an FYI, I don't know how that slipped through all of the things we were triple checking. It'll get fixed in the next printing. But in the meanwhile, 4 yards for your throw. So I took the solid. I did go kind of out of the box on the solid. I went for butterscotch, if you are familiar with the Painter's Palette solids. I felt like it complemented the orange on the front of my quilt top really well. And yeah, just, picking something complimentary, but wanting to make sure that I left, the really good fabric on the bolt for y'all at QuiltCon. Speaking of, those of you who have been on videos and stuff with me this week, QuiltCon is consuming my brain energy. If you have your eye on any of the fabric in our shop, especially collections like Bird is the Word, Gingerberg's Woodland Wonder, what else do we have floating in here? Any of the Ruby Star Society that came in last year that we still have, and you have been putting off that purchase, you need to get those orders in like today. We paused shipping on Friday, so Friday is our last day of shipping before we head to the show, and we are operating under the assumption that fabrics that go to QuiltCon will not come home. So will there be some stuff that comes home? Probably, right? The fact that, you know, the chances of us selling every last half yard of absolutely everything is probably a little low. But most of it will not make the trip back. It'll be a one-way drive to Phoenix for these bowls. So I don't want you to be putting it off, especially if you're still piecing your perfect fit top. You know, oh, I'll get backing when I'm done. Go ahead and order what you want so that we can get it out the door to you. Okay? Good morning, William. Oh, thank you. William says, I'm in Athens, Georgia, looking forward to this topic. I listed you, Holly, as my influencer on the 2025 quilting survey. Thank you. I appreciate that so much. I would love to make the list of, you know, influential quilters. I think that would be very fun. Excuse me. All right. So think about when quilting perfect fit. There's a lot of themes in this quilt, but not a whole ton. You absolutely, especially if you piece this with solids, you could decide to go whole hog with some outside the lines quilting and have a grand time of it. I have not had the opportunity to do that, but if one of y'all decides to get really involved with your quilting plan, I would love to see it. You know, if you are looking for inspiration on that, if you're like, you know what, this top came together pretty quick, this would be a really fun one to practice some really complicated custom quilting on. Go look at some of the quilting plans that I have done for Lanterns of Hope, because it is similar in that it is log cabin adjacent, and has some of those similar shapes. So you could do some really cool quilting, like some of the stuff I've done on Lanterns of Hope on Perfect Fit. Yeah. John says, I love the window in front of your long arm. Me too. So if you've never been into the store, like, first of all, the window itself is delightful, right? It brings in big light. It's part of what makes it so delightful to photograph and video when I'm working on the long arm. What's also very fun is this street that I'm looking. This is Main Street. So we're on Main Street as a shop, but literally all the action is down there. And I can sit here and long arm and just people watch all afternoon. It is the most fun. I can see everything. It's a great time. I enjoy it very much. Oh, the phone is gonna ring. I don't know if y'all can hear it, that the phone is ringing. Okay. I normally sit on the floor to do this, so I am gonna squat way down here. I think y'all can sort of still see me. All right. So we're getting this pinned on. I'm planning, y'all. I'm gonna be so boring with my perfect fit. I'm gonna do square spirals. That's what I have done for my last few. I love square spirals on this design. Am I in a rut when it comes to quilting perfect fit? Maybe. We maybe are also going to stick with it for the time being, in part because we're headed to QuiltCon. I don't have a lot of time to come up with something new. But as much as I talk about custom quilting, if you have been looking for me to write a permission slip for some all-over quilting, here's your permission slip. Great question. William says, can you explain your pinning versus red snapper preferences? Yes. I constantly have people telling me to use red snappers. I am incredibly picky about making sure that my backing is straight and square and on grain. And I have never seen red snappers used in a way that is going to keep my backing as smooth as I want it to be. I'm not saying it's impossible. I just have never seen it. And I know that I can get a lot of accuracy and a lot of control over how this backing is loaded by using pens. And so that's what I do. I've thought about making the investment in snappers. I get a lot of questions as well about using snow tights. And I know people who love and swear by both. But I'm a pinner. It just, I don't know. It is what it is. I float my tops. So once my backing is pinned on, I'm good to go. And I don't mind this process. This does not bother me in the slightest. All right. I know I thought I wasn't going to put pins in my teeth, and yet here we are. Almost there. This is good, y'all. Also, if you've never seen a long arm loaded before, this is the equivalent of basting. So when you put a quilt on the frame, you don't have to baste the layers together. You layer them by loading the frame. So this is my backing. Then I can roll it up. And we smooth it out every couple of rolls to make sure that there's no wrinkles or anything like that. With my leader over here. Not really twisty, so let's maybe actually fix that. You know what you're doing here. Okay. What other questions? Y'all are asking great questions today. You should have a magnetic pinball. So I have a magnet down on my other arm. This one I could not bother sticking one down here. So I keep them in a little, essentially an Altoids pin. I'm all for the wise use of gadgets. Like a magnetic pinball would be honestly a really, really great tool. I also am just someone that once I get in a rut, I have a system, it's working. Like unless I'm experiencing a lot of discomfort from it, I stick with what I've got, for good or ill. There are some ways in which I love to be an innovator, and there are some ways in which I'm like, it's working, it's doing the job. Let's see. Sharon says, do you pin your backing to the top bar first and then the bottom? Yes, I do. No particular reason behind it other than that's just how I've done it. And it works well for me. So it's also something that I've recently started doing because I've been doing a lot of big quilts. And if you quilt on a frame, when you've got a big backing, it's easy for it to become distorted or warped or wobbly or kind of load on there funky. And so I used to always roll my bottom bar up first so that then I was ready to go. I recently started rolling to my top bar. And then I roll it all down to my bottom bar, and I find that I get a flatter finish. It also allows me to pick little threads off as I go. But I find that I get a smoother load doing it this way. Because everything's under kind of a light tension, and any really funky wrinkles have a chance to fall out. Voila! And then we will layer our batting and quilt top on. These are great questions, y'all. Keep them coming. Thank you. I love my space too. I'm definitely biased and definitely fortunate because it's big and beautiful and wonderful. All right. Next up. This batting is folded in half. I'm just going to check my, yes, perfect. All right, unfold it, make sure I've got it oriented properly. And then these layers I simply float. What questions can I answer for y'all about perfect fit quilting plans? I know I'm just kind of taking y'all along for the process here of getting this all set up and ready to quilt. But I want to make sure that if you've been thinking about ideas for your perfect fit and have questions, that we get those answered so that you feel excited and empowered and all of those good things. Yeah, look how fun. Oh, it's so bright and cheerful. I'm so excited about this. It's gonna look so good in the booth. Sharon says, I happen to agree with you about the red snappers. I tried them and I prefer pinning. I like how much control I have. And like, I don't want to sound like a control freak, but in some ways I am on this one. I'm like, no, I know how I like it. I know what works. And so I'm going to stick with it. Just a little more. Voila. And then we're going to gently lay this here for a second. I have a handy dandy batting hammock. Some of y'all remember the great batting disaster of 2021 when Havana's rawhide got lost in the batting and she tore up the batting while I was live on camera. And that's when I discovered batting hammocks. This one is actually made by Handy Quilter, but you can make one yourself as well with just a piece of fabric and some elastic or string. So there we have it. This is all loaded. I'll base the top edge. I'm going to pick out some threads and we're going to briefly look at thread together. Y'all won't be able to see super close up, but I'll talk you through my process. Then I have some reminders for y'all about our quilt show, and then we'll call it a day. Okay? All right, let's look at thread colors. That's probably going to be a little blue, but we're going to pull it out anyway. So my process when I am choosing thread is I pick out some colors from the quilt. I pick out some neutrals, and then I pick one or two kind of wild card colors that I'm like, there's no way that'll work. And I lay them all out on the quilt, and then we start the process of elimination. So let me look down in here and grab a bunch of options. And you'll notice some of these choices are real weird. Like, I love to pick some real weird options and see what we come up with. That might have been the one right there. Sometimes I like touch one and I'm like, that might be it. Both of those are good options. I don't know if I have one in here. Like, I wasn't kidding when I say I pull a bunch of thread. Let's see. I have to take the plastic off. Okay, so I do something like this, where I have one frozen color. So those of you on YouTube cannot see it. Hang on. So one frozen colors. I've got a couple of neutrals. I've got some yellows, some oranges, some pinks, some teals. And then I'll start unspooling them on the quilt and kind of see what speaks to me. Let's see. William says, floating the top, not loading it. Pros, cons, everyone has their preference, just fascinating. So I like to float, again, because of the control it gives me. Especially quilting for others, I never quite know like how flat seams are actually pressed, if there's going to be ease somewhere, if something's going to be really funky and unsquare. And having it floating like this gives me a lot of opportunity to finagle and maneuver and manipulate that fabric to get it to land square and flat. It also means that if I have any kind of issues with like the batting getting wrinkled or anything, I can literally flip this top up and back and smooth everything out and then pull it back down. I can flip it up and pull threads out. Like I can just fool with it a lot more. Whereas if it is on that roller bar, it's really kind of stuck in place. And if I need to get to something in the middle here, I'm going to have to run my arm underneath, and that's messy. That's messy. I don't like doing that. Yeah. Lynn, yay, you're here. I'm so glad. Sharon says, do you crease your quilt bottom and top and then center the top and bottom? So the bottom, yes. So the quilt back, I folded and found the center point and lined it up and pinned it in place. For the top, I just then visually center it on the frame. Yeah, great questions. All right, let's take a look at these yellows. We'll start with yellow. Who is texting me? These are not relevant. Okay. There. Okay, then we'll put this kind of yellow green. I can pretty confidently say right now I don't think any of those are going to do it for me. I pulled yellows because there's this yellow bird in here. And I always like to kind of start, like I said, with the colors that are in the quilt. These blend and they're lovely. Like I could pick any of these. There's nothing wrong with these thread choices. They're just not speaking to me. And I think I want this quilting. What in the actual heck? That was so tangled. Okay, let's very carefully re-spool some of this. Hopefully, see all this madness that came right off? Can y'all see that? There we go. Ta-da. Yes, the ability to flip it around is super helpful, William. Especially if I've got funky threads and stuff under there. Like if I'm using, you know, if it's a light quilt, but it also has darker colors in it, and I know there's going to be threads I need to be able to pull free, etc. Ooh, that green is actually really pretty. Let's check out the firecracker red. And now, by the way, if y'all don't know this trick, I show this so often on video. Like here's my thread tail. On these Aurifil spools, when I'm done, I can wrap the thread tail around the end of the spool and then pop that bottom back on. And now I'm not going to have a loose thread going everywhere. And then I can just pop it off and get my thread tail free. Be good too. Pink. Notice that I'm unspooling like 2 feet of thread. I really want to see these colors go all the way across the pattern of my quilt. That's not going to do it for me. I can just rule these out. Okay. I'm like, I can see these sitting on here, but they're not what I want. All right, let's get this unplastic. Boop. Same thing when you have a new spool of Aurifil. If you're not sure where the tail is, it's probably under that cap. Oh, I like the teal. Oh, the teal might be it. Okay. The light green. And the pink. Okay. So I've got everything spooled out except for these 2 turquoises that I pretty much eliminated right away. Just looking at them on the quilt top, I'm like, those aren't the right blue. So I have everything spooled out. But here's the thing. I could pick any one of these thread colors and it would work. Most of these blend in really nicely. They don't stand out super bright against the back or against the top. And they would add a lovely texture. They would talk to some of the other colors that are in the quilt. Any of them are going to be good options. I will say, for me, this teal is really standing out. It is going to mellow some of the pink and yellow. That rhymed way more than I wanted it to. I love how it's going to blend in with the teal fabric. This teal fabric is my favorite one, and I love that color. So bringing some more of that in, I think is a really great plan. I think my second choice is either this pink, which is a very close approximation for the bright pink in the quilt, or this little lilac-y color. This is 2564. It's a very pale purple, and it is almost gray until you put it on the quilt top, and then it actually is reflecting the colors on the quilt top really nicely. So that would probably be one of my next choices. Could I use Aurifil 2600, 2610, 2800, any of those kind of classic neutrals to quilt this and have it look beautiful? Yes, I absolutely could. This is, you know, my preference of, I love a bold thread choice. I have the luxury of a lot of thread colors. If you've been doing Aurifil Color Builders with me at any point in the last few years, you also have a lot of thread colors. And this is a great way to use thread that's kind of outside of your wheelhouse. Like I love this teal color, but I obviously have never quilted with it. I had to open my spool, right? And so that is it's a fun thing to look and see and say, oh, let me use something a little bit different. I find that I use a wider variety of quilting threads by doing an exercise like this than if I just reach for my same, you know, 2600, 2311 every single time, right? Yes. Okay. Making sure I didn't miss any questions on Instagram. I think we're good. Good morning, Margot. I love that. William says, how much of the quilting pattern design is in your head when you're thinking about the thread color? So this is a great question. Now, I already know that I'm doing an all over design on this quilt, and I'm planning to do square spirals, and square spirals don't have any retracing, right? Like it is a line and then you cut across to make your next square spiral. So I also know that in addition to, even though this is a very dark thread, I'm not going to be doubling it up at any point. So it's a very fine thread because it's 50 weight. And so even though it is dark, there's no place where I'm going to have like a lot of thread buildup where those lines are going to look really bold. That's very different from like what I just did on Polaris, where I had a lot of retracing on a lot of those motifs. So those quilting lines, even though it was a very fine thread, stand out a lot. So those are definitely things that I'm keeping in mind when I'm choosing a thread color of how much do I want my quilting to show, right? And I made the choice on Polaris, like if I could turn all of y'all easily, I would. But I can see not just the depth or the perspective of the quilting standing across the room from it, but I can actually see the stitching lines, right? Because I chose a light turquoise thread. I quilted on that dark blackberry background, and there's a lot of retracing. So those are really bold lines. If I were going to do something on here that had a lot of retracing that was going to make my lines bolder, I would probably go a little more mellow on my thread color because I'm not really looking to compete with what's going on here. I already made a lot of really bold choices with my colors and my fabrics. I'm not trying to be even more extra, right? I had a little bit of wiggle room with Polaris because there's a lot of negative space on that quilt. So those are absolutely things that I'm keeping in mind. Also, it's worth keeping in mind like your own personal preferences. I think it's evident from the quilts that I make that I like bold choices, right? I want that quilt to reach out and be like, good morning, and just, you know, wallop my eyeballs and kind of be an aggressive assertion of color and fun and print and pattern exactly. So yeah, those are all definitely things that are running through my mind. If you don't like your quilts to be like that, you like them to be more mellow, then, you know, you might want to pick, you know, one of these more neutral colors. And notice neither of these are gray, right? I know my YouTube folks, I can't tell how weird the light is for y'all, but like this is a light lilac and this is a medium mauve. Like I still didn't pick grays, right? Or even cream. So you can add a little bit of something without being as kind of bold and out there as I'm choosing to be with this turquoise, right? Those are awesome questions, y'all. Thank you. Dot says, will you post a picture as you get started? Yes, fear not. You will see lots of photos and videos of this quilt and this process in the coming days. I love it. Yeah, I'm definitely mentally in the space right now. Okay, I'm going to be driving to QuiltCon for 3 days and won't get to sew. Let me make sure I have fun and pretty things to share. In addition to sharing, you know, road trip updates, which will be a fun time. So yes, Dot, don't worry. I'll make sure that I share as we get started. Good questions, y'all. Good questions. Any other questions I can answer as we wrap up and I prepare to get started quilting on this? Let me put all of these away, and then I have a couple fun announcements for y'all that I'm going to share before we say farewell. I'm a little sad that I didn't choose a neon, but I think that teal is going to be it. Okay. All right, if you have questions, fire away. Here are my announcements. Announcement number 1, if you have been part of the Perfect Fit Quilt Along and you are finishing up your quilt top, it doesn't even have to be quilted, just your quilt top. Please make sure you're keeping an eye on your email. On Monday, we sent out an email that had the blog for this week. Yes, I will also put the blog in my stories here in a little bit. But in addition, it had a link of where to submit your quilt top for our virtual quilt show. We're having a virtual quilt show on the 27th? Yes, Thursday, February 27th at 8 p.m. Eastern in all of these locations. I think, yes, we're going to have to push it to Instagram from folks. I think it's going to stream on Instagram, but let me be honest with you, because it's going to be a slideshow, you're going to want to watch it on YouTube. So asterisk there. We'll share more details as we get closer. But on the 27th, I want to make sure I get to show off all of your beautiful quilts. So check your emails for that information. If you cannot find it, please send us an email at hello@stringandstory.com. And Laurel or I will get that link to you as quickly as we can. Speaking of Laurel and I and the rest of the team, we are all leaving for QuiltCon next week. I hope that I get to see a bunch of you there. I would love to see you in person. Please do not be shy about coming up to me. Just like hold your name badge up as you holler and approach so that I can see who you are. Because I see your names all the time, but I don't get to see your faces as often. So I would love to see you at QuiltCon, but that also means that the team is going to be a little out of pocket. We're going to be doing our very best to check emails morning and evening and respond to things as we can. But please be patient with us. We will be working very, very long days. We will be very tired, and we're going to do our best to support all the things and all of y'all as we are in, a different location doing different stuff. Speaking of being in a different location with different stuff, shipping pauses Friday. So if there is anything in here that you are wanting to be at your house, I need you to get those orders in. We are actively packaging and shipping, and it's been really fun to see some of the stuff that y'all have been putting together. So especially fat quarter bundles, quilt kits, prints, all of those things. Please, I don't want you to be sad that it didn't come home from QuiltCon. The final fun treat. Today is actually pattern release day for our new free pattern, the Sawtooth Star. This is a very classic block. We've simply made it really easy for you to make 12-inch Sawtooth stars in a variety of common sizes so that you have a quick and easy resource to grab for when you have that fun fat quarter bundle that you can't figure out what you want to make with it, and you want to make sure you get to show off the fabric. You can fussy cut into the center of these blocks. When you need to put together a quick gift, if you are a new quilter looking for your first project, if you are a new quilter and you've never made flying geese before and you're looking for a really user-friendly way to learn that process, this pattern is great for all of those things. Dot gets the gold star. She's already downloaded it. So if you head to my stories, there's a link right now. I think it's labeled Get the Fun Thing Early. If you head to our website under our drop down for digital education, you'll find it. It is also listed in our shop as a free pattern. So if you've been looking for just something, kind of a fun palette cleanser, quick, easy make, that's going to be the one for you. Stay tuned later this afternoon. I am almost done with a new Sawtooth Star quilt top, and I'm going to be sharing it. It's going to be fabulous. Okay, there's all my announcements. I know I saw a question from Margot, so let me see. Margot says, I haven't started yet. How do I watch the videos later? Head to YouTube, Margot, and we've got a playlist going. And I'll be double checking to make sure all of these videos have gotten appropriately added. The other place that you can go, Margot, is at the top of my Instagram profile. There are the little bubbles, and there's the perfect fit story highlight. And all of the resources and all of these videos have been saved up in there. So you can tap through and find them. Yeah, great question. Because we definitely want to make it as easy as possible. Margaret says, I've quilted with a medium mauve color, and it really seems to adapt like a chameleon on different fabrics. It really does. It's a good one. I've done that a couple of times, and I'm surprised every time what it will blend with. All right, y'all are fabulous. Thank you so much for being here. I'm going to get started on quilting this. Stay tuned. I will post pictures soon. Until then, enjoy putting together the rest of your perfect fit quilt tops. They're looking absolutely amazing. I hope I see you at QuiltCon. I hope I get to celebrate you at our quilt show in a couple of weeks. Be safe and have a great time until then. Bye for now.